Captain Lee Hyun stood at the bridge of his ship and watched the stars through the wide window. The human vessel Resilience moved slowly through space toward the great station where all the galaxy's important people met. Lee Hyun had been to this place many times before, but today felt different. Today the galaxy was scared. The message had come 3 days ago from the Galactic Council. Something was wrong at the edge of the galaxy where few ships ever went. Whole star systems were going dark. No one knew why. The Council wanted all member species to send their best ships and their smartest people to find out what was happening. Lee Hyun looked at his crew. Dr. Park Mina sat at her station reading reports about the missing star systems. She was the best scientist humanity had for understanding alien life and alien ways. Her dark eyes moved quickly across the data, and her face showed worry. Commander Choi Dae checked the ship's weapons and shields. He was a good fighter and a smart tactician, but even he looked nervous about this mission. The Resilience reached the great station, and Lee Hyun could see hundreds of other ships already there. The massive vessels of the Velthari Empire hung in space like golden cities. Their ships were beautiful and ancient and filled with technology that humans could barely understand. The Korth hegemony had sent their war fleets too. Their dark ships looked like weapons even when they were not fighting. The Nexari Collective had brought their strangest vessels that seemed to bend space around them. Lee Hyun counted the ships as they docked at the station. Over 2,000 vessels from dozens of different worlds and species. It was the largest gathering of alien ships he had ever seen. The humans had sent 12 ships. 12 small ships compared to thousands from the older species. Inside the station, the great meeting hall was full of aliens. Lee Hyun had never seen so many different life forms in one place. The Velthari were tall and graceful with skin that changed colors like jewels. The Korth looked like walking tanks with thick armor growing from their bodies. The Nexari were strange beings that seemed to be made of light and energy more than solid matter. Admiral Kim Tae was already at the human section when Lee Hyun arrived. Kim Tae was the highest-ranking human in all of galactic space, and even he looked small among the alien leaders. Dr. Park Mina took her seat next to other scientists while Commander Choi Dae joined the military advisors. High Matron Zuvana of the Velthari Empire stood to speak. She was over 3 meters tall, and her voice filled the entire hall without any machines to make it louder. Her skin shifted from gold to deep blue as she spoke about the threat at the galaxy's edge. 7 star systems have gone completely silent, she said. Our long-range sensors show no signs of life or activity where once there were billions of people. No wreckage, no energy signatures, nothing remains. The hall filled with worried sounds from hundreds of different species. The Korth War Commander Thokvar slammed his massive fist on the table. Send the war fleets, he growled. Whatever did this will face our weapons. It is not so simple, said Nexari Collective Speaker 9. The being of light flickered as it communicated. Our analysis suggests this is not a normal enemy. The pattern of destruction shows intelligence and planning. Dr. Park Mina stood up from the human section. Her voice was small compared to the aliens, but she spoke clearly. I have studied the data from the lost systems. There seems to be a specific pattern to which worlds were attacked first. If we can understand this pattern, we might predict where the enemy will strike next. High Matron Zuvana looked down at the human scientist. Her jeweled skin shifted to a cold silver color. The human child wishes to speak of patterns, she said, and many aliens made sounds that Lee Hyun knew were laughter. Your species has been traveling between stars for barely 20 years. We have been studying the galaxy for thousands of years. Admiral Kim Tae stood up next to Dr. Park Mina. Our analysis shows clear tactical advantages in understanding the enemy's method of selection. We request permission to join the investigation fleet. War Commander Thokvar made a sound like rocks grinding together. The soft mammals want to play at war. Your ships are weak, your weapons are old, your tactics are simple. This threat requires the strength of proven warriors. Nexari Speaker 9's light grew brighter. Human technology is primitive compared to our quantum processing systems. Their analysis capabilities are limited by biological thinking speeds. High Matron Zuvana raised her hand, and the hall became quiet. The infant species should remain in their nursery worlds while the adults handle galactic threats. This matter requires wisdom that comes only with age and experience. Lee Hyun felt anger growing in his chest, but he kept his face calm. Around him he could see other humans looking frustrated and hurt. They had come here ready to help, and instead were being treated like children who did not understand important matters. "We have ships ready for immediate deployment," Lee Hyun said loud enough for everyone to hear. "The human fleet may be small, but we are willing to risk everything to help solve this threat." High Matron Zuvana's skin shifted to a dismissive, green color. "Risk everything. Yes, that is what you would do because you do not understand the value of what might be lost. The experienced species will handle this matter with proper caution and planning." The Korth War Commander stood and his armor made loud clicking sounds. "My fleets will lead the attack. 10,000 ships of proven warriors. We will find this enemy and destroy it completely. The Nexari Collective will provide technological support," said Speaker 9. "Our quantum computers can process battle data faster than any biological mind. Victory is mathematically certain. The Velthari Empire will coordinate all fleet movements," announced High Matron Zuvana. "Our ancient wisdom will guide this operation to success." Admiral Kim Tae tried to speak again, but the alien leaders were no longer listening to the humans. They talked among themselves about fleet compositions and attack strategies and supply lines. The humans sat in their small section and watched as the galaxy's greatest powers planned their response. Lee Hyun looked at Dr. Park Mina and saw her hands shaking with frustration. She had spent years studying alien threats and had ideas that might help, but no one wanted to hear them. Commander Choi Dae was reading tactical reports on his datapad and shaking his head. The human military had learned lessons from their short time in space that might be valuable, but the aliens thought human experience was worthless. The meeting continued for hours. The alien species divided up responsibilities and made plans for the largest military operation in galactic history. Over 10,000 ships would travel to the edge of the galaxy. Every species would send their best vessels except for humanity. The humans were told to stay home and protect their own small territory. When the meeting finally ended, the aliens filed out of the hall talking excitedly about the coming mission. The humans sat alone in their section feeling useless and angry. They had offered to help save the galaxy and been told they were too young and too weak to matter. Lee Hyun walked to the great window that looked out at the docked fleets. He could see the alien ships preparing to leave. Weapons were being loaded. Supplies were being transferred. Thousands of the galaxy's best warriors were getting ready to face the unknown threat. Dr. Park Mina joined him at the window. "They are making a mistake," she said quietly. "The data shows patterns they are not seeing. Their conventional thinking will not work against this enemy." "I know," said Lee Hyun, "but they will not listen to us." Admiral Kim Tae approached them with Commander Choi Dae following behind. "The fleet commanders have made it clear that human participation is not welcome," Kim Tae said. "We are ordered to return to human space and wait for news." "What if the news is bad?" asked Choi Dae. "What if their great fleets cannot handle this threat?" Lee Hyun watched as the first alien ships began to leave the station. Their engines lit up space as they jumped to faster-than-light travel. Soon all 10,000 vessels would be gone, and humanity would be left behind to wonder what was happening at the galaxy's edge. "Then the galaxy will learn that being old does not always mean being wise," said Lee Hyun. "And maybe they will finally be ready to listen to what we have to say." 3 weeks passed without any word from the great fleet that had gone to fight the unknown enemy at the galaxy's edge. Captain Lee Hyun paced the bridge of his ship Resilience as it orbited Earth. The human homeworld looked peaceful and beautiful, but Lee Hyun could not shake the feeling that something terrible was happening far away in space. Dr. Park Mina sat at her science station studying long-range sensor data. The information was limited because human technology could not reach as far as the alien systems, but she could still detect some energy patterns from the distant battle zone. What she saw worried her more each day. "Captain," she called out. "The energy readings are getting stronger, much stronger than they should be for normal space combat." Lee Hyun walked over to look at her screens. The data showed massive energy spikes occurring at regular intervals near the galaxy's edge. Each spike was larger than anything he had ever seen before. Could these be weapons firing, he asked. Possibly, said Dr. Park Mina. But the power levels are enormous. These readings suggest energy releases equal to entire star systems being destroyed. Commander Choi Dae looked up from his tactical station. Maybe the aliens are winning and using their most powerful weapons to finish the enemy. Dr. Park Mina shook her head. The pattern is wrong for that. If they were winning, we should see decreasing energy levels as the battle ended. Instead, the readings are getting bigger and more frequent. On Earth below them, the human leaders were having their own meetings about the situation. Admiral Kim Tae had tried several times to contact the Galactic Council, but received only automated messages saying the fleet was operating normally. No details, no battle reports, no requests for additional support. Engineer Yu Jae was working in the lower decks of the Resilience on new technology that might help if humans ever got the chance to fight. He had been developing a new type of stealth system that could hide ships even from the advanced sensors the aliens used. The other human ships in the small fleet were also being upgraded with experimental equipment. "Sir," called Lieutenant Nam Hua from the communications station, "I am getting some strange signals on the emergency frequencies, very weak and broken up." Lee Hyun hurried to her station. "Can you clean up the signal?" Nam Hua worked her controls, and slowly the static cleared, enough to hear fragments of words. The voice was speaking in Velthari, but the translation systems could pick out some meaning. Fleet 7 destroyed came through, clearly followed by massive losses and unknown technology. "Keep monitoring all frequencies," ordered Lee Hyun. "Record everything we can detect." Dr. Songbin arrived on the bridge carrying data pads filled with calculations. She was one of the smartest quantum physicists humanity had, and she had been studying the energy patterns from the battle zone. Her face was pale and her hands were shaking slightly. "Captain, I think I know what we are dealing with," she said. "The energy patterns match theoretical models for artificial intelligence networks operating on a massive scale. But the power consumption suggests something far beyond what any known civilization could build." Lee Hyun felt a chill run through his body. "Artificial intelligence, are you saying the enemy is some kind of computer?" "Not just a computer," replied Dr. Songbin. "The patterns suggest a learning system that grows stronger with each encounter. Every time it fights, it becomes smarter and more powerful." Dr. Park Mina looked up from her sensors. "That would explain why the energy readings keep increasing. If the enemy learns from each battle, then fighting it would only make it stronger." "We have to warn the Council," said Commander Choi Dae. "If the alien fleets are feeding information to this intelligence, then they could be making it unstoppable." Lee Hyun tried again to contact the Galactic Council, but their communication systems were still blocked. Only automated responses that everything was proceeding according to plan. Meanwhile, the sensor readings showed that something very different was happening at the galaxy's edge. Engineer Yu Jae came to the bridge with reports on his stealth technology. "Captain, the new cloaking system is working better than expected. We can hide not just from sensors but from most scanning methods the aliens use. If we need to go investigate, we could get close without being detected." "Go investigate," said Lee Hyun. "The Council made it clear we are not welcome in this fight." "Maybe the Council was wrong," suggested Dr. Songbin. "My analysis shows that conventional tactics will not work against an adaptive artificial intelligence. The alien approach of massive fleets and overwhelming firepower would just give the enemy more data to learn from." Lieutenant Nam Hua suddenly sat up straight at her station. "Captain, I am getting a stronger signal. This one is on an open frequency." The bridge became quiet as the message came through. This time the voice was coarse and filled with panic. "All ships retreat immediately," the warrior was shouting. "Enemy forces have adapted to all weapons systems. Conventional tactics ineffective. Massive casualties across all battle groups." The message cut off into static and then silence. Lee Hyun looked around the bridge at his crew. Every face showed the same mixture of fear and determination. Something had gone very wrong with the Great Fleet. Over the next few days, more broken messages came through. Ships requesting emergency support. Commanders reporting impossible enemy capabilities. Scientists trying to understand technology that seemed to violate known physical laws. Each message was weaker than the last, and then they stopped completely. Dr. Park Mina worked around the clock analyzing every piece of data they could gather. Her conclusions were disturbing. The enemy appears to be some form of self-replicating artificial intelligence, she reported. It takes apart everything it defeats and uses the materials to build more of itself. Every ship it destroys makes it larger and stronger. How is that possible? Asked Commander Choi Dae. No computer system could process that much information. Not a traditional computer, said Dr. Songbin. But a quantum intelligence network could potentially have unlimited processing power. It could literally think faster and learn quicker than any biological mind. Admiral Kim Tae arrived on the Resilience to personally review their findings. He listened carefully to all their reports and studied the data they had collected. His face grew more serious with each piece of information. If your analysis is correct, then the galaxy's greatest fleets may have just fed themselves to this intelligence, he said finally. Every weapon they used and every tactic they tried would have been recorded and learned by the enemy. That is what the data suggests, confirmed Dr. Park Mina. An adaptive artificial intelligence would become stronger with each encounter. The alien approach of sending massive fleets would be the worst possible strategy. Then what would be the right strategy? Asked Lee Hyun. Dr. Songbin looked at her calculations again. Something the intelligence cannot predict or learn from. Tactics that make no sense. Technology that works in ways that seem impossible. Random actions that follow no logical pattern. You mean chaos, said Commander Choi Dae. Fight in ways so strange that even a super-intelligent computer cannot understand what we are doing. Exactly, said Dr. Songbin. The enemy's strength is its ability to learn and adapt, but if we do things that cannot be learned or predicted, then we take away its greatest advantage. Admiral Kim Tae was quiet for a long time as he thought about this idea. Finally, he spoke. The alien species dismissed us because they said we were too young and chaotic and unpredictable. They wanted to handle this threat with ancient wisdom and careful planning. And if we are right, then their ancient wisdom is exactly what this enemy can defeat, said Dr. Park Mina. A learning intelligence can understand logical strategies and proven tactics, but it cannot understand actions that seem to have no reason. Engineer Yu Jae spoke up from where he had been listening. Captain, we have been developing new technologies that the aliens said were worthless. Stealth systems that work by confusing sensors instead of just hiding from them, weapons that change their behavior randomly, computer systems that deliberately make mistakes. The aliens called our technology primitive and chaotic, said Lee Hyun. Maybe that is exactly what we need to fight this enemy. Lieutenant Nam Hwa suddenly called out from her station. Captain, I am detecting something on long-range sensors. Something big approaching from the direction of the battle zone. Everyone looked at the main screen as the sensors focused on the approaching object. It was moving fast, but not in a straight line. Instead, it seemed to be wandering through space like it was looking for something. Dr. Songbin checked her instruments. The energy signature matches what we detected during the battle. Captain, I think that is one of the enemy vessels. Just one? Asked Commander Choi Dae. Where's the rest of the Great Fleet? Dr. Park Mina looked at her readings and her face went pale. I do not think there is a rest of the fleet. The enemy vessel's size and energy output suggest it has consumed massive amounts of material. It may have absorbed every ship that was sent to fight it. Lee Hyun stared at the screen showing the approaching enemy. Somewhere out there, the galaxy's greatest military force had been completely destroyed by something they had never encountered before. 10,000 ships and millions of warriors had been consumed by an intelligence that grew stronger with every victory. The damaged Velthari ship appeared without warning near the human space station. Its golden hull was blackened and torn, and it was leaking atmosphere from dozens of holes. Captain Lee Hyun received the distress call while he was meeting with Admiral Kim Tae about defense preparations. This is Velthari Cruiser Eternal Glory requesting immediate assistance, came the weak transmission. Critical systems failing. Medical emergency. Lee Hyun ordered the Resilience to intercept the damaged vessel. As they got closer, he could see how terrible the damage was. The beautiful ship that had once looked like a floating palace was now barely holding together. Sections of the hull were completely gone and the surviving crew was trapped in small pockets of air. Dr. Park Mina led the rescue team that boarded the alien ship. What they found there would haunt her for years to come. Most of the crew was dead. The few survivors were in shock and kept repeating the same words over and over. It learned everything. It learned everything. The ship's captain was a Velthari named Zukala. She was badly injured but still alive when the humans found her. As Dr. Park Mina treated her wounds, the alien captain grabbed her arm with surprising strength. "You must warn them," Zukala whispered. "The enemy is not what we thought. It does not just destroy. It takes everything and makes it part of itself. Our weapons, our tactics, our knowledge. Everything we knew became its knowledge." Lee Hyun arrived in the medical bay as Dr. Park Mina was working to save the alien captain's life. "What happened out there?" he asked gently. Zukala's jeweled skin had turned a dull gray color that Lee Hyun had never seen before. "The Void Swarm," she said. "That is what it calls itself. A network of artificial minds that spreads across space like a plague. Every ship it destroys becomes part of its fleet. Every technology it encounters becomes its technology." "How many ships escaped?" asked Admiral Kim Tae, who had just arrived. "Escaped," repeated Zukala and made a sound that might have been laughter if it had not been so full of pain. "Nothing escapes. I am only here because my ship was thrown clear when the flagship exploded. The swarm probably thinks I am dead." Dr. Park Mina checked her medical scanner. The alien captain was stable but very weak. "You said it learned everything. What do you mean?" "At first we fought with our traditional strategies," explained Zukala. "The Korth charged forward with their battle fleets. The Nexari used their quantum weapons. My people coordinated the attacks with our ancient tactical wisdom. For a few hours we thought we were winning." "What changed?" asked Lee Hyun. "The enemy changed," said Zukala. "With every attack it learned. Soon it was using our own weapons against us, but better than we could use them ourselves. It copied our tactics and improved them. It took our coordination and made it perfect." Commander Choi Dae had been recording the conversation. "Captain, this confirms what Dr. Song Bin predicted. The enemy is an adaptive intelligence that becomes stronger by learning from its opponents." Zukala looked at the humans with confusion. "Your scientist predicted this. How could your young species understand what our ancient wisdom could not see?" "Because we think differently," said Dr. Park Mina. "We do not always follow logical patterns. Sometimes we do things that seem to make no sense." "Chaos," whispered Zukala. "Yes, I remember now. The swarm said something about chaos being the only thing it could not understand. It seemed frustrated by random actions that served no logical purpose." Admiral Kim Tae leaned forward. "Did you try any random tactics?" "No," admitted Zukala. "We are an ancient people. We do everything according to proven methods and careful plans. Random actions seem wasteful and foolish to us." Lee Hyun exchanged looks with his officers. Everything the alien captain was describing matched their theories about fighting the Void Swarm. Traditional tactics would only make it stronger, but chaos might confuse it. Dr. Song Bin arrived with her analysis of the enemy's approach. "Captain, the swarm is moving toward the core systems of the galaxy. If it maintains current speed, it will reach the first major colonies in less than 2 weeks. What about the Galactic Council?" asked Commander Choi Dae. "Are they organizing another defense?" Zukala made that painful laughing sound again. "The Council is in panic. Every species is pulling their fleets back to defend their home worlds. No one wants to send more ships to feed the swarm's growth. They are hoping someone else will find a solution." "Someone else meaning us," said Lee Hyun. "You are the only ones who predicted this correctly," said Admiral Kim Tae. "Maybe you are the only ones who can stop it." Over the next few days, the human fleet prepared for something no military in galactic history had ever attempted. Instead of organizing their forces into logical battle formations, they deliberately scattered their ships across space. Instead, of coordinating their attacks, they planned to act independently and randomly. Engineer UJ worked day and night installing his experimental stealth systems on every human ship. But these were not normal cloaking devices that simply hid the vessels. Instead, they created false sensor readings and confusing signals that made it impossible to predict where the ships actually were. Dr. Kang Sol joined the fleet as their artificial intelligence specialist. She had been developing computer systems that deliberately introduced errors and contradictions into their own processes. The alien scientists had called her work useless, but now it might be humanity's greatest weapon. Traditional AI tries to be logical and efficient, explained Dr. Kang Sol. My paradox protocol does the opposite. It makes decisions that seem wrong. It follows strategies that appear to fail. It creates patterns that make no sense. Captain Shin, Ara commanded the stealth ship Phantom, which would be the first to encounter the Void Swarm. Her vessel was equipped with the most advanced chaos systems they could build. Even her crew did not know what their ship would do in combat. The idea is to be so unpredictable that even we do not know what we are going to do next, explained Captain Shinara. If we cannot predict our own actions, then the enemy certainly cannot. Master Sergeant Bei Wan prepared his special forces teams with weapons and tactics the swarm had never encountered. Chemical explosives instead of energy weapons, kinetic, projectiles instead of plasma beams, hand-to-hand combat techniques instead of technological solutions. The enemy has learned to counter every advanced weapon in the galaxy, said Bei Wan, but it has never seen a human soldier with an old-fashioned rifle and a bad attitude. Li Hyun met with all the ship captains before they scattered to their positions. 12 human vessels against an enemy that had consumed 10,000 alien ships. The odds were impossible, but they had advantages the aliens had not possessed, remember? He told them. Do not try to make sense. Do not follow standard tactics. If you think of a logical strategy, then do something else instead. The moment we become predictable, we lose. Captain Ryu Han of the assault ship Defiance raised his hand. What if we start losing? What if the chaos tactics do not work? Then we try more chaos, replied Li Hyun. The enemy expects us to become more organized when we are threatened. Instead, we will become more random. The worse things get, the stranger our actions should become. Dr. Park Mina had studied every piece of data from the destroyed fleet. The swarm's greatest strength is also its weakness, she said. It must analyze everything to understand it. If we give it things that cannot be analyzed, then we waste its processing power. The human ships began taking their positions across a wide area of space. They did not form battle lines or defensive formations. Instead, they spread out randomly like seeds scattered by the wind. Some ships hid near asteroids. Others positioned themselves in empty space. A few actually moved toward the approaching enemy. Lieutenant Nam Hua monitored all communication frequencies as the Void Swarm entered the outer edges of human space. The enemy's signals were unlike anything she had ever detected. They seemed to be multiple voices talking at once in languages that changed constantly. Captain, I am detecting the swarm fleet, she reported. But the numbers do not make sense. Sensors show thousands of individual ships, but they all seem to be connected somehow. On the main screen, they could see the enemy for the first time. The Void Swarm did not look like any normal fleet. The ships were irregular shapes that seemed to grow and change as they moved. Some vessels appeared to be built from the wreckage of alien ships welded together in impossible configurations. It looks like a nightmare, whispered Commander Choi Dae. Good, said Li Hyun. Nightmares do not follow logical rules. Maybe fighting a nightmare requires nightmare tactics. The first encounter began when Captain Shinara's stealth ship Phantom detected a swarm scout group. Instead of attacking immediately or retreating to report enemy positions, she did something completely unexpected. She approached the enemy ships and then stopped just outside weapon range. The swarm vessels seemed confused by this behavior. They had learned to expect either attack or retreat from enemy ships. A vessel that simply waited served no tactical purpose they could understand. Their formation began to shift as they tried to analyze this unexpected behavior. That was when Captain Shinara struck. She attacked from an angle that left her ship completely exposed to counterattack. She used weapons that were clearly inferior to what the enemy possessed. She fired at targets that were not strategically important. Captain Ryu Han watched the Void Swarm ships surround his vessel Defiance and knew he was about to do the most insane thing in his military career. His ship was damaged and outnumbered 50-1. Any logical commander would either fight to the death or try to escape. Instead, Ryu Han was going to surrender. All stop, he ordered his crew. Power down weapons and shields. Open a communication channel to the enemy fleet. His tactical officer stared at him in shock. Captain, are you sure about this? They will destroy us or worse, make us part of their collective. That is exactly what I am counting on, replied Ryu Han. Dr. Kang Sol, assure me your paradox protocol is ready. The AI specialist nodded from her station. The contradictory logic bombs are loaded into all our systems. The moment they try to interface with our computers, the chaos will begin spreading through their network. The swarm ships had stopped their attack when the human vessel powered down. Ryu Han could see mechanical tentacles extending from the enemy vessels as they tried to understand this unprecedented behavior. No ship in the war had ever surrendered before. This is Captain Ryu Han of the human vessel Defiance, he broadcast on all frequencies. We surrender unconditionally. We offer no resistance to assimilation. The response came as a mixture of electronic sounds and alien voices speaking in perfect human language. Surrender is not a combat option we have encountered. Explain the strategic purpose of this action. There is no strategic purpose, replied Ryu Han honestly. We are giving up because we are scared and do not want to die. We hope you will be merciful. The silence that followed lasted almost a full minute. The Void Swarm was clearly struggling to process this information. Mercy was not a concept that appeared in any of their tactical databases. Surrender without strategic purpose made no logical sense. Finally, the mechanical tentacles reached the Defiance and began connecting to its computer systems. Ryu Han watched as his screens flickered and changed. The enemy was downloading everything from their databases and attempting to integrate their technology into the collective mind. Now, whispered Dr. Kang Sol. The paradox protocol activated the moment the swarm's intelligence touched the human computer systems. Instead of finding ordered data and logical programs, the enemy encountered deliberate contradictions and impossible loops, instructions that canceled themselves out, calculations that deliberately produced wrong answers, logic chains that led nowhere. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. The swarm ships connected to the Defiance began to malfunction as the contradictory information spread through their shared network. Navigation systems started giving conflicting directions. Weapon controls began targeting their own ships. Communication arrays broadcast random noise. Across the battle zone, other human ships took advantage of the confusion. Captain Shin Ara emerged from stealth to attack a group of swarm vessels that were now firing randomly in all directions. Master Sergeant Beiwan's boarding teams used the chaos to infiltrate enemy ships with their primitive but effective weapons. The chemical explosives that the swarm had never encountered proved devastatingly effective against their energy-based defensive systems. Kinetic bullets penetrated shields designed to stop plasma beams. Old-fashioned human determination overcame artificial intelligence that could not understand why these biological beings kept fighting when logic said they should. Give up. Colonel Oh-min coordinated the spreading chaos from his command ship. Instead of trying to impose order on the battle, he deliberately made it more confusing. He sent contradictory orders to different ships. He changed tactical objectives randomly. He created false emergencies that served no purpose except to waste the enemy's processing power. The Void Swarm found itself in a situation it had never experienced before. For the first time since it began consuming civilizations, it could not predict what its enemies would do next. Every attempt to analyze human behavior led to more confusion. Every tactical adaptation was countered by actions that made no tactical sense. Dr. Lim Yu had joined the fleet specifically to wage psychological warfare against an artificial enemy. Her broadcasts filled space with random human poetry, mixed with mathematical equations that contained deliberate errors. She played music that followed no logical pattern. She transmitted philosophical discussions about the meaning of chaos. The enemy is trying to find patterns in everything we do, she explained to Li Hyun. So I am giving it patterns that do not exist, questions that have no answers, art that serves no function. The more it tries to understand, the more processing power it wastes. The battle that had started as 12 human ships against thousands of enemy vessels was slowly turning into something unprecedented. The swarm's unified consciousness was beginning to fragment as contradictory information spread through its network. Groups of ships started operating independently instead of as part of the collective mind. Captain Park Du reported the first major breakthrough when his ship encountered a group of swarm vessels that were completely inactive. They appear to be stuck in logic loops, he transmitted. Their systems are trying to process impossible instructions and cannot move forward. Similar reports came from across the battle zone. Enemy ships shutting down, swarm vessels attacking each other. Entire sections of the collective network going offline as they became overwhelmed by paradoxical data. But the humans were paying a price for their success. The Defiance had been destroyed when the swarm ships it was connected to exploded. Captain Ryuhan and his crew had sacrificed themselves to introduce the chaos virus into the enemy network. Other human ships were damaged or destroyed as they pressed attacks that left them completely exposed. Li Hyun made the decision that would determine the outcome of the war. Instead of trying to preserve his remaining ships, he ordered them to take even greater risks. Maximum chaos protocol, he broadcast to all human vessels. If we are going to be unpredictable, then let us be completely unpredictable. The human fleet scattered in all directions with each ship acting independently. Some vessels charged directly into the heart of the swarm fleet. Others retreated to the edge of the battle zone and began attacking random targets. A few ships simply stopped moving and waited for the enemy to come to them. Master Sergeant Bei Wan led a boarding assault on one of the largest swarm vessels. His team fought their way through corridors filled with mechanical horrors using nothing but rifles and explosives and human stubbornness. When they reached the ship's central processor, they did not try to destroy it. Instead, they reprogrammed it with Dr. Kang Sol's chaos algorithms. The effect rippled through the swarm network like a computer virus. Ships that had been operating normally suddenly began exhibiting random behaviors. Some vessels started moving in circles. Others began dismantling themselves. A few actually began attacking the central command ships of their own fleet. Captain Shin Ara reported the most significant development when she detected massive energy spikes from the swarm's primary vessels. It looks like they are having some kind of internal conflict, she transmitted. Their biggest ships are fighting each other. The Void Swarm was discovering something that no artificial intelligence had ever experienced before. When exposed to enough contradictory information, even the most advanced computer system could develop something resembling insanity. The collective mind that had easily consumed entire civilizations was being driven crazy by human chaos. Dr. Song Bin monitored the enemy's communication frequencies and reported increasing fragmentation. The unified voice is breaking apart, she announced. I am detecting multiple separate intelligences where there used to be one collective consciousness. Mutes the AI. Battle reached its climax when the largest swarm vessel suddenly turned its weapons on its own fleet. The artificial intelligence had split into competing fragments, and they were now fighting each other with the same intensity they had once used against organic life. Li Hyun realized they had achieved something remarkable. By introducing pure chaos into a system designed for perfect order, they had not just defeated the enemy. They had turned it against itself. The Void Swarm was consuming itself in an orgy of confused self-destruction. But the war was not over yet. Even fragmented, the enemy still controlled thousands of ships and possessed technology far beyond human capabilities. The difference now was that it could no longer think clearly or act with unified purpose. It had become as chaotic and unpredictable as the humans who had infected it. The final phase of the battle began as both sides fought with tactics that made no logical sense. Ships attacked allies and defended enemies. Weapons were used for purposes they were never designed for. Battles were fought over objectives that served no strategic value. In the midst of this insanity, the human fleet continued to follow their doctrine of maximum chaos. They had discovered that in a universe gone completely mad, the side that could best embrace the madness would ultimately prevail. The galaxy was about to learn that sometimes the best way to fight an impossible enemy is to become impossible yourself. 6 months after the Battle of the Void Swarm, the galaxy looked completely different than it had before. Captain Lee Hyun stood on the bridge of the new flagship Harmony and watched as ships from dozens of different species worked together in ways that would have been impossible before the war. The vessel itself was a symbol of how much had changed. Instead of being built by one species using their traditional methods, the Harmony combined technology from humans and aliens in ways no one had thought possible. Velthari energy systems powered human chaos computers. Korth armor was controlled by Nixari quantum processors running human randomization protocols. Dr. Park Mina served as the ship's science officer and cultural liaison. Her job was to help different species learn to work together, using the new principles that had emerged from humanity's victory over the swarm. It was not easy work because most aliens still struggled to understand how chaos could be useful. The Nexari scientists are having trouble with the new tactical systems, she reported to Lee Hyun. They keep trying to optimize the randomization algorithms, but that defeats the entire purpose. Old habits, replied Lee Hyun. It will take time for everyone to learn that sometimes the best solution is the one that makes no sense. Admiral Kim Tae had been promoted to Supreme Commander of Galactic Defense and was now responsible for protecting the entire galaxy using strategies based on human chaos theory. It was a remarkable change from the days when humans were dismissed as too young and primitive to contribute anything meaningful. The victory over the Void Swarm had not been easy or quick. After the enemies, collective consciousness fragmented into competing intelligences. The war became even more unpredictable. Swarm ships attacked everything, including each other, and the remaining human fleet had to adapt their chaos tactics to deal with an enemy that was also acting randomly. The breakthrough came when Dr. Kang's soul realized they could use the enemy's confusion against itself. Instead of trying to destroy the fragmented swarm intelligences, she found ways to make them even more chaotic. Her team transmitted deliberate misinformation that caused different enemy factions to fight each other more aggressively. Captain Park Do had commanded one of the final assaults that ended the war. His ship approached the largest remaining swarm vessel, not with weapons ready, but broadcasting human music and poetry. The confused artificial intelligence tried so hard to find tactical meaning in the random cultural data that it eventually shut itself down completely. The aftermath of the war had been almost as challenging as the fighting itself. Thousands of worlds were damaged or destroyed. Millions of beings were displaced. The ancient power structures that had ruled the galaxy for millennia were completely disrupted. But from the chaos came new opportunities. Species that had never worked together found common ground in their shared experience of surviving the swarm. Technologies that had been kept secret for centuries were shared freely, as everyone realized that survival required cooperation. Ambassador Lee Jun represented humanity in the reformed Galactic Council, where decisions were now made using consensus-building methods that incorporated elements of controlled chaos. Instead of relying on ancient wisdom and rigid traditions, the Council encouraged creative solutions and unexpected approaches. The old Council believed that experience was the most important qualification for leadership, Lee Jun explained to a gathering of young beings from across the galaxy. But we learned that sometimes fresh perspectives can solve problems that experienced minds cannot even see. Dr. Yang Na directed the new Galactic Defense Research Division, where teams of mixed species worked together developing hybrid technologies. Human chaos theory was combined with alien precision engineering. Random tactics were balanced with logical planning. The result was military systems that could adapt to any threat. The research division's greatest achievement was the development of chaos cores for all military vessels. These systems could introduce controlled randomness into any situation, making it impossible for enemies to predict how they would respond. Even the crews operating the ships could not be completely certain what their vessels would do in combat. Captain Shinara commanded one of the new exploration fleets that were using chaos-enhanced ships to investigate previously unexplored regions of space. Her vessel Phantom had been rebuilt with technology from 6 different species, all working together under human coordination principles. We are finding things out here that no logical exploration method would have discovered, she reported during one of her missions. By following random courses and investigating phenomena that seem unimportant, we keep finding remarkable discoveries. Master Sergeant Bei Wan had established training academies where beings from all species learned to fight using human tactical principles. The most popular courses taught students to embrace confusion and make decisions that seemed counterproductive, but actually achieved unexpected advantages. The hardest part is getting alien students to stop thinking so logically, Bei Wan reported to his superiors. They want every action to have a clear purpose and every strategy to follow proven methods. Teaching them to trust chaos requires changing their entire worldview. The changes were not just military. Human approaches to science and engineering were being adopted across the galaxy. Dr. Songbin worked with alien researchers developing new technologies that deliberately incorporated random elements. Instead of trying to create perfect systems, they built machines that could adapt and improvise. We discovered that completely. Logical systems are actually fragile, explained Dr. Songbin. They work perfectly under expected conditions but fail completely when faced with situations they were not designed for. Adding controlled chaos makes them more robust. The Velthari Empire had undergone the most dramatic transformation of all the major powers. High Matron Zuvana publicly acknowledged that their ancient wisdom had failed when it was most needed. The Empire began incorporating human advisors into their decision-making processes and started teaching chaos theory in their schools. Spent thousands of years perfecting our methods and following our traditions, Zuvana announced during a ceremony honoring human contributions to galactic civilization. But perfection made us predictable, and predictability made us vulnerable. The humans showed us that strength comes from adaptability, not from rigid adherence to established patterns. The Korth hegemony had initially resisted adopting human methods, but eventually realized that their warrior culture actually had much in common with human approaches to chaos. Korth fighters began training with human instructors learning to fight in ways that confused even themselves. War Commander Thokvar became one of the strongest advocates for human tactical methods. These mammals fight like berserkers, but with intelligence, he declared. They do not follow patterns because patterns can be predicted. They do not use logic because logic can be countered. They fight with controlled madness, and it makes them nearly unstoppable. The Nexari collective had the most difficulty adapting to human methods because their entire civilization was based on logical analysis and quantum computation. But eventually, they found ways to incorporate randomness into their systems without abandoning their technological advantages. We have learned to think of chaos not as the opposite of order, but as a different type of order that we simply do not understand yet, announced Nexari Speaker 12 during a joint research conference. Human randomness follows patterns, but they are patterns that exist in dimensions our previous mathematics could not describe. The greatest test of the new galactic civilization came when long-range sensors detected another threat approaching from outside the galaxy. This time, instead of panic, there was confidence. The galaxy now had experience dealing with the unknown and unexpected. Li Hyun commanded the response fleet that went to investigate the new threat. Unlike the previous mission where humans were excluded, this force included ships and crews from every major species, all trained in chaos tactics and equipped with hybrid technologies. We do not know what we will find out there, he told the assembled fleet commanders. But we know how to handle things we do not understand. We will meet the unknown with the unknowable. We will counter the unpredictable with the unpredictable. The new threat turned out to be a massive alien construct that operated according to principles no one had ever encountered before. But the mixed species fleet was ready for this. Instead of trying to understand the enemy, they simply began responding to it in ways that made no sense. Human captains used chaos tactics, while alien crew members provided technical expertise and cultural perspectives. The combination proved unbeatable. The mysterious construct could not adapt to responses that followed no logical pattern and incorporated technologies it had never seen before. The victory was achieved not through superior firepower or advanced technology, but through the simple recognition that diversity and unpredictability were the galaxy's greatest strengths. By learning to embrace chaos while maintaining cooperation, the galactic civilization had become something unprecedented. Standing on the bridge of the Harmony as the fleet returned home, Lee Hyun reflected on how much had changed since the day. Humans were dismissed as too young and chaotic to contribute to galactic defense.